not only can I get her to do stuff, but then I can generate emotions in her because of me. Like, that's double whammy power. The action and then the emotional response is just perfect.
I felt devalued. I felt replaced. And I wasn't important. I was a nothing.
So if you felt stupid, embarrassed, humiliated, that was the point.
Narcissists treat birthdays really strange. Not only your birthday, but also their birthday. Mine had a birthday was coming up, and I wanted to do something extra special. And he told me what his favorite cake was. I thought we would go out of town for the weekend, just make it really special. I bought all the right things to make it, because it was a cheesecake. So I had to buy the right form, the pan for it, to make sure to have the right ingredients for it. And then he proceeded to start to sabotage the birthday, so that it ended up so badly that I actually flew out of town and spent that period of time away from him. I wasn't even with him. And then he went and acted out that weekend. It was such...
It was your birthday,
No,
though.
it was his. He went and
birthday.
really messed up his birthday. It was, I thought, and I could tell it was deliberate. I could tell he was sabotaging it. But I find, and I'm curious what your experience around this is that either their birthday has to be the biggest occasion ever, like it's the monumental special 50th every year or the 30th or whatever, or it ends up being something that they insist you ignore, and then they're upset if you do any efforts at all.
I didn't have any experience of the latter, but definitely the former. Do you think that he messed up that birthday because he wanted you to go away so that he could go and misbehave?
I'm not for sure. What I noticed in that relationship was that his acting out was cyclical, and that there were periods of the year that were better and periods of the year that was worse. And that period we were moving into typically seemed to be the worst period. And I don't know if I was picking up on something real or not, but I could feel that there was a rhythm to his acting out, that it was like spring he started heating up, summer he turned into his shit, fall he would sort of beat himself up, feel guilty, winter he would try to like a new program for a new you, sort of in time for the new year, to only to have it collapse and repeat again. So his birthday's in the middle of the summer. What was weird about that experience was that he went to a lot of effort to broadcast what he wanted. I love this type of cheesecake. It was strawberry cheesecake. Leaving clues for me so that it would be the kind of experience that he wants. And I said, hey, what if we go to Cozumel for the weekend? I'd never been. I don't think he'd ever been. So I wanted to make it kind of something extra special. We go over. It's supposed to be gorgeous snorkeling. We love to snorkel together. I started looking at Airbnbs that we could stay at, and then he started nixing every single one. No, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one. Or sabotaging the communication between them. So he had access to the app, and he was fudging up the communication so that it didn't work. He's literally like, I was watching a tower go down. And then he did the strangest thing. I'm trying to, because this is a long time ago, like 8 years ago. He said, he wanted to go away the weekend before because his birthday was like in the middle of the week. He wanted to go away the weekend before for a retreat to figure out whether or not he still wanted to be married. That's what he told me.
Right.
And I'm thinking, here we're going to all this effort. You've now kind of like fudged it so badly that going away together is not going to happen because I can't make arrangements because you've made them all a mess. I have all the supplies in the house to make the cake, but now you're going to go take a retreat to see if you want to still stay married. And I just, jeez.
One of my favorite concepts in this kind of, when thinking about this stuff, is that concept in child development. I know you and I have talked about this before. The concept in child development, I can't remember who came up with this, of the pleasure at being the cause, which is something that obviously child development psychologists studied and noticed that children have a certain amount of pleasure when they're sort of developing in very early infancy at noticing that they can make stuff happen. Like, it's just a very simple pleasure of, I did that. And if we watch little children, you can see them just taking pleasure from really simple things like, I don't know, flinging their spoon off the top of the high chair and watching it bounce on the floor, or the fact that I did that. And I really think that a lot of the time I'm not saying you, but we overcomplicate trying to understand why highly narcissistic people do what they do when what they're getting is pleasure from being the cause. Simple. So it doesn't matter what they're the cause of, as long as they're making something happen. So like, oh, look, I got her to buy the ingredients for the cake. Oh, look, and now I've got her to get the stuff out the cupboard and start preparing the ingredients. Oh, no, now look what there's this constant thing of look what I can get her to do. It doesn't matter what I get her to do, but I can just get her to do stuff.
Fascinating. Oh, that's really interesting. You're right. I did see that kind of pleasure from him, that he knew that I went out of my way to go to a special baking store because you don't buy these pans are not sold in the typical grocery store in Mexico. So I had to go somewhere special to get that. And he knew, because it sat out on the counter, that I had done that I had made this special efforts, or that he knew I was writing to the Airbnbs on our behalf to create this special event. Yes, you're right. I did experience that, it's sort of like the little child saying, look at me, I can do a flip, and then they don't really do the flip. They do some kind of like try at it, but.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could see a little one throwing their teddy bear off the balcony and seeing it land on the ground and just being like, they're just thrilled that they made that happen. Like, I have the power. And I truly think that a lot of the time it's as simple as that. Look what I can make you do. And it doesn't matter what I can make you do, but I'm going to keep making you do stuff. And
so do you think the sabotage of it was in the same vein?
That's why I was asking you about, did he have some other agenda? But
I do think, yes, he had another agenda.
Very possibly. But I think it's almost like if I can poke you to walk down that street in that direction and you start doing it, that gave me a buzz of, I'm in charge. Yeah. But now I want you to walk in the opposite direction. I'll just poke you so that you'll go that way.
Yes. I do think sometimes it is that. It's like, oh, I made you go there. Let's see if I can make you return.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, oh, I got you to set it up. Now let's see what happens if I sabotage the whole thing. What will you do then?
Yeah, exactly. And if we think about like what emotions that must have brought up for you, like what emotions did that bring up for you?
I was confused. It didn't make sense. I was frustrated. I actually wanted him to feel special. And then to watch him sabotage it, to me, felt mystifying. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And I think that that's the icing on the cake. Not only can I get her to do stuff, but then I can generate emotions in her because of me. Like that's double whammy power, the action and then the emotional response is just perfect.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the fact that it's around the birthday makes it even more loaded topic psychologically? Yeah,
because of the expectation. There's it's a special occasion, isn't it? So whether it's yours or theirs, there's this heightened emotional charge. And anything that has that kind of heightened emotional charge is even better.
Yeah, because if you stand back, and I haven't really thought about this I haven't done any research, so this is just me theorizing and thinking about how people feel about birthdays, is that the birthday is a day that you were born. It's the beginning of you. And it's a celebration that you're a unique person in the world. And then this is a way that we sort of say that how special you are. In a way, it is a healthy narcissistic event. All of it's what I would think Heinz Kohut would say is you're in that moment. It's a repeating experience of being the apple of the eye, where the beholder sees you and loves you and idealizes you. And we all take pleasure from that experience. But what I've noticed is that narcissists do very strange things with that because they have very strange needs around being beholden by being the apple of the eye, but also being able to see other people in that kind of way. They don't seem to see other people as separate individuals. They see them as extensions of themselves. So they see you as the apple of their eye, not the apple of, I'm not saying that correctly. I don't know if you're following. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I do know what you mean. I think, and I'm going to try so I'm just thinking this through as I'm speaking. I haven't thought of it before, but I think that a lot of it is around if I'm a highly narcissistic person and this is this special day for me and you're going to make an effort for me. I want that, don't I? I want to feel that feeling of being special. But if you give me all these lovely things, then I have to be grateful to you. You've got something right. If you've got something right, then you're somehow detracting from me. This is meant to be about me. And I don't want to be thanking you. So it's this, I think that's part of the quandary of the condition, because it kind of sets them up to fail. It's that I want it, but I don't want it to go too well because then I have to give you something. So I've almost got to get this to go wrong.
you share in the reward of it.
Yeah.
No, I think you're onto something. I think that's really big because this is what I heard a lot. And it's not from just him. I heard this from other people with character disorders, would say, birthdays are not a special day. I don't like celebrating them. And then they would go out of their way and make sure that it would be a bad day. They would kind of sabotage it, throw wrenches into it. They would mope around, be extra depressed. They would start an argument on that day. They would make sure that it became a bad day.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's also true that very often that would be in direct response to what they thought you thought a birthday should be? By which I mean that if you didn't value birthdays, I suspect that highly narcissistic person, character disordered person, wouldn't take the same stance. They would take the opposing one.
Yes.
So it's almost like they have to find out what your viewpoint is first and then go against it.
So you're suggesting that if they know that you don't care and it's not an event, then they would deliberately push to make it an event.
Mm-hmm. I suspect so.
That's what I think so too. And then if it is a big event, they're going to make sure to, in some ways, devalue or diminish the event so that it doesn't go well.
Mm-hmm. Because then you'd be getting satisfaction.
Yes, how dare you get satisfaction?
Can't have you getting satisfaction on my special day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I do think you're onto something about the fact that if you participate in giving them a good day, then the ownership of that behavior might belong to you and they can't have you have that.
I think so.
Yeah. It's painful because I know that this is super confusing for people. And because here's the thing that happens on my side, and I think it happens for a lot of victims, is that you hear that, it creates tenderness. We get empathic about it. I know this is what I thought. I thought, well, I want to fix that for you. If you've had a lot of bad birthdays in your life, then I want to be the one that gives you good birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
And not realizing that in itself is the setup, the trap, that they don't want you to be the one to give them the good birthday.
No, and I think if we're being fair and we're thinking about people who are less consciously antagonistic, because there are many highly narcissistic people who aren't particularly aware of what it is that's driving these behaviors. I mean, there are, as you know, plenty that do and plenty that really don't understand. I think if we're being fair to them, they'll go ahead and sabotage a day and not really even know why they feel the need to trash it. But it could be a Christmas, it could be an engagement, it could be anything where one part of them can understand that this is a special occasion, I want to enjoy it. And the other part of them is so triggered by other people's happiness, things not meeting their expectations, things not being as perfect as they want them to be, any of that stuff that they just, that they have to wreck it.
Yeah, because you're chopping into another dynamic that I do think is present, and that is that these individuals often live in an idealized version of reality. That what happens in their mind is, I've seen this a lot, in that wedding has to be the perfect wedding, and it has to be exactly the right thing has to happen, and then Christmas has to go just so, and they want it to be a sort of a Norman Rockwell moment. They build these things up to the point that these days are ordinary days. Let's just be really honest. It's just that, yes, what's special is the effort we put into it. But then in themselves, it's almost as if they believe magic exists. And then when the magic doesn't happen on these days, it's a huge letdown, like a terrible crash for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And of course, it can be so painful, as you said, for the partner, because if a lot of effort's genuinely gone in, a lot of money's been spent, and trying desperately for something to go well, and then it doesn't. It can be so soul destroying, can't it? Really?
Yeah, it can. It can. And I here's the other thing I think people get tripped up on is that there's so many different forms. I think that's something that clinicians tend to understand, at least our training, it tends to help us understand, is that every person's expression of these disorders is their own expression of it. It's like a fingerprint, and it will be uniquely different for them than for anybody else. And so, yes, we try to categorize them in large groups, subgroups, but that doesn't mean that there are exceptions to the way that these people play the drama out in their life. What we're saying here, we're giving you some guidelines, but it doesn't mean that it may look that way in your life. I think that there are people with narcissistic traits, tendencies, or character disturbances that do fine around birthdays, that this is not an issue for them. But then I also think that there are other people who have just traits and normally do well in other areas, suddenly will crash around their birthday because of what it represents to them psychologically.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't even talked about gifts.
Yeah.
Gifts is a big one, and that does come up a lot in my work.
Interesting. In what way? Yeah.
Well, the absence of thoughtful gifts, knowing that there'll obviously be a hope for a nice thoughtful birthday gift or Christmas gift, you know, the disappointment that partners feel and the sense of assuming that if they do that, that their highly narcissistic partner will do the same for them. And then a recognition that once again, that hasn't happened, you know.
I saw a fabulous TikTok. There's a woman. I don't know if I know her handle, and I'll make sure to put a note to put it in the show notes. Shauna is her name, and she does these skits, and it's about family with character disturbances in them. So they're very thoughtful, deal with big life transitions around what it's like to have somebody in the family or several people in the family who's ill. One of them was about, and I don't know the relationship in the skit, who's who to whom. It's between a man and a woman. It's a repeat Christmas, and they're exchanging gifts. And she gives him a gift, and he's like, oh, touched, and he couldn't believe that she remembered, and that she noticed, and it was a really nice gift. And then he gives her his gift, and it's lotion. And it's because he noticed that last week she had dry hands. And then it comes out that he got her lotion last year too, but he didn't remember that he got her lotion. And then she gives him another gift, and he's like, oh, and it's a more than one gift experience here? So you realize that this person put no effort into it, slapped something at it, and can't even remember from year to year what he's done the previous year. Now, I'm not making this as a man thing. This could be anybody who does that. But I think that's a great example of what you're talking about, is that's what happened in my situation. And mine was so bad that I bought mine, this is where we're dating, so I knew to not go out and buy a new iPad, but I got him a used iPad and gave it to him, and then he went out and shopped and had me pick things off of the Best Buy end aisle where they had, like, near the cashier, a couple items.
The bargain bucket.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my gift.
Nice.
I know. And then one year he gave me a gift, and I found out later it was a re-gift from another woman he was seeing.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've definitely heard of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I experienced was, and I wished I'd caught onto this before I started doing it, and I now think, oh, I'm so annoyed that I fell for this. But he would suggest things that he liked, and I would run out and buy them. But then I would notice that they would never be used.
Oh.
Ever. They would just be there. He would comment on things that he liked, and I would think, okay, fine, I'll surprise him, I'll get that. And those things would never see the light of day. And I would sometimes sort of say, are you not going to use that thing? And he would say, no, I am going to use it. I am. And they would never be used. And I now think, again, back to this idea of pleasure at being the cause, it was just about getting me to do stuff.
It's like, oh, look, I got her to buy that for me.
I got her to, look what I can do. I just have to suggest something. And I mean, I've really learned to stop doing that. But that has been a massive character flaw of mine, is that eagerness. It's kind of embarrassing.
Mine was doing something similar to me, would drop these hints. There's a word for that. I came across it. Oh, dry begging. Have you heard of that before?
No.
It's actually a thing. It's called dry begging, where you deliberately will start to hint at something.
Oh.
Yeah, and drop hints so that person knows that that's what that person wants, without them ever saying, so that when you say, I got this for you, you really want, I never asked you for it. I never asked you for it. So it's really a kind of like great setup too.
And also, I don't know if you identify with this, but you also feel really stupid that you kind of care. Like that you care that stupid gift hasn't been used. But I think this is like just one of those tiny little ways that your sort of self-esteem gets kind of eroded, because then you start to beat yourself up for caring about something, I don't know, like a secondhand iPad or whatever it is. It starts to really bother you.
Oh, what bothered me about the secondhand iPad is that he used it to contact other women.
Yeah.
That I actually made his cheating easier.
Wow.
And on larger screen. He'd watch pornography now on a larger screen. So to me, I participated with my own betrayal. Not, obviously I didn't know. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone and got it. But But that's how I discovered that he was soliciting sex workers, was on that iPad.
Wow.
So that it was kind of this nasty karma that obviously nobody set that up. But here's what he did do. That birthday that I tried to set up, that I ended up going somewhere, I thought I was really big and brave. That day when he told me that, I couldn't sleep. And instead, I contacted my best friend from high school and said, can I come visit? Meant I was flying back to the United States. She goes, absolutely. So I made flight that morning and asked him to drive me to the airport. And then, got up and packed and drove. He dropped me off to the airport. He went ahead and went to Cozumel without me. And then when I came home, he was sporting a bracelet as a gift. Said he bought it himself. Now, he did not buy that. He would not confess that somebody bought him that. But I'll tell you, Lynn, that is not a bracelet this guy would have bought for himself.
No.
This was a bracelet that had a symbol on it to me that reminded me of the high school promise rings.
Oh, right. Okay.
It just had a feel of like, you're a somebody to me and I want you to know. And he would make sure that he would wear that. Whereas the bracelet I bought him and got him as a wedding gift, that was not being worn.
He was really brazen, wasn't he?
Very sadistic. I think that was what I'm going to ask you, is if you thought that behavior of getting you to sort of that dry begging, getting you to buy the gift and then not wearing it. Do you think there's a measure of sadism to that?
100%. And I a bit like this thing I keep mentioning, pleasure being the cause. I think one of the things that's easiest to help explain various pathological behaviors is when clients will often say, why would they do this? And I think that the easiest way to kind of answer that question is go to the feeling that it gave you.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So the point of it was what it made you feel.
I 100%
Does that make sense?
agree.
That end of story. I think we could almost close the book at this point, in terms of the why is that. So if you felt stupid, embarrassed, humiliated, that was the point.
Devalued. I felt devalued.
Yeah.
Made sure that I knew that I wasn't, nothing. That's another way of describing devalued. I felt replaced. I felt negated, and I wasn't important. I was a nothing. And I think that's why he did what he did. He went so far as, here I am in that other state, in the United States, visiting my friend, to send me photos of what he was doing on his birthday, on the location that we were supposed to have gone to.
Yeah, but I think he did that knowing that you didn't know what he was doing.
And he wasn't alone, but he wouldn't show that he wasn't alone, but I knew he wasn't alone. Oh, it was vicious. That's what it felt like. I felt like he was vindicating himself. Against what? The puzzling part was it my effort to give him a good birthday? No.
But in his mind, sending you those photos, knowing that he's got someone sitting here, he knows that, and he knows that you don't know that. So sending that photo gives a little buzz of, you don't know, I do. Yeah. And I think it's all of these little, there are times when with the person I'm talking about, when that person would be abroad and they would ring me and I could tell that they were quite manic in their tone.
Yeah.
And I know that they were manic because they knew that I didn't know what they were doing.
Really doing.
Does that make sense? You could hear it in their voice, and it was almost like, oh, this is hard to contain this because I'm so high off of knowing that you don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, and mine would actually send me photos of him, self-portraits, selfies, in that state, doing the naughty thing, and I would get to see the mania with the wild eyes. His eyes were sort of like bung eyes, and this weird expression. He was almost sweating, from the exhilaration of the crap that he was pulling on me.
Exactly.
It's really
I got on the dark side.
It's very dark stuff, and I think that's a really great place for us to kind of wrap up and then move to the podcast extra. Is that this is really dark, and I think this is the part of the narcissism and even predatory behavior that we often don't explore, is how dark it really acts. When you pull it back and look underneath of what's going on, it's very ugly.
100%.
We often will it's a smear campaign, or they just want to hurt me, or, or they're insecure, or they're trauma-based. No, it's really actually worse than that. And that's the part we often miss.
Absolutely. And once unfortunately, so much of this stuff is only realized retrospectively.
Yes.
Very, very rarely do we realize it whilst it's happening. So when you're the person taking that phone call from your partner who's overseas and they sound really excitable and at the time that seems like a face value conversation. It's afterwards you're sort of horrified as the pennies kind of drop, don't they? Which they invariably do over time,
Yeah, it does. So that's a great segue for us to go over and follow up with the podcast extra is how can we get better at recognize it in the moment so that it's not so much of a hindsight insight? Because that's where the safety is. Because people walk away. This is why I think it's important. People walk away and say, well, then I just wear off relationships. Because if I can't tell I'm in danger and I'm going to meet other dangerous people in the world, then I just won't have relationships at all. That's the way to solve this dilemma. And Lynn, I think that it gives bad people way too much power.
100%. But I don't think, in all honesty, that we can. I think if you're showing up authentically in a relationship, right, with someone who, as far as you know, is not at this point an abuser, I think that's the way that bonding and relationships work, that you have to kind of be in it. And for those of us, hopefully, who are not pathological, we are in it when we're in it and we're taking things at face value. And I've watched myself, even since that very abusive relationship, almost going into yet another one. I haven't, thankfully, but almost, because I don't know that we ever really do immunize ourselves from this stuff. Do you agree?
Well, let's talk about it further on the podcast extra. Let's dig into that because I think those are really great questions. And I even have an article that I want to bring up that I thought really, really hit hard on this that we can talk about as well. So let's jump over there.
Okay.
It's 2 a.m. again, and you're replaying that whole conversation over, and you're wondering yourself, was it really that bad, or maybe I'm just being dramatic? So you start to draft that I'm sorry text again, because the guilt that you're feeling or the confusion you're experiencing is just unbearable. And you know this loop because you've been there before, but I want you to know that you're not alone. I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a retired psychologist, and for 25 years, I've been helping people untangle exactly what toxic relationships do to your mind, how they create the confusion, the self-doubt, and that trauma bond that keeps pulling you back in. Here's the truth. Recovery isn't about getting more information. It's about having the right support in the exact moment you need it. That's why I've created Reclaim You. It's a private, always available coaching app built from my work and my content, organized into an extensive library that you can actually use when you're triggered. Inside it, you'll get 5-minute lessons when your brain can't handle a deep dive, check-ins that meet you exactly where you are, whether you're feeling strong, shattered, or numb, boundary scripts that help you say no without over-explaining, grounding tools that work fast when you're activated, and progress tracking so you can see proof you're healing even on days when it feels like you're not. There's no appointments, no waiting, no judgment, just practical support right when you need it. Reclaim You, real help in real time, right in your pocket. And it's a coaching support, not therapy or emergency care. Learn more at studio.com/Dr. Kerry. So start your healing today and reclaim you.